What's good, everybody? Welcome into the latest episode of your favorite pro wrestling and maybe a little bit of sports too show called the Coach and Bro Show. I, of course, am the coach, and my partner every single time, unless when he's traveling, is from russosbrand.com and never put the S at the end. Vince Russo. Vince, I feel like I haven't seen you for hours. Or, I
Coach,
mean,
I haven't seen
in hours.
it's been way too long. We got to start hooking up over the weekend, Coach. I don't know, man. Listen, I'll put a block of 3 hours aside to spend time with you any Saturday night, Coach.
I will not do the same. So you can't do that. I will not do the same. But we love doing a show together. That's for damn sure. And we've got a lot to talk about this week, Vince, because Saturday night, as you and I were doing a different show, I would argue that we probably had more viewers than AEW
Mm.
Full Gear. It was potentially the worst pay-per-view that I have ever seen. And I don't know that I've ever seen on social media, have you, where almost 90 to 100% of the critiques and of the posts were unbelievably negative. I felt like it was the lowest point for AEW that I've ever seen.
Coach, let me tell you something, man. First of all, I've said this many times, having met you, getting the opportunity to work with you and a producer, man, has been, an education for me. It's been a gift from God for me. You've taught me so much. And Coach, I know over at ESPN, you learned from so many greats. You were sitting underneath the learning tree. Coach, I did the same in wrestling. You did the same in wrestling. People that were there before us, people that knew when they spoke, we listen. Coach, I'll never forget, Coach, one time, I had a 5-minute conversation with my idol, the big cat Ernie Ladd.
Oh,
Coach,
man.
one
Oh,
time,
yeah.
I can tell you the conversation verbatim, one time. But Coach, my point is, this is anybody out there wanting to start a podcast like, what Coach and I do, wanting to start their own business, wanting to, try something new. Coach, you got to listen. You got to learn from your mistakes. Coach, you don't even know this. Do you know out of the chute, like literally a day or two after the announcement was made that Tony Khan bought AEW and this whole 9 yards, okay? Like the next day, Coach, he's doing an interview on some Dirt Sheet Mark podcast. Coach, my name gets brought up.
Oh, no.
Now,
Okay.
Coach, I don't know Tony Khan from,
From
I
Nick
never
Khan.
heard of the guy, never heard of him.
Okay.
My name gets brought up. Here's what he says, bro. First day on the job. Well, Vince Russo went into WCW and they had a hangnail. Vince Russo proceeded to cut the whole arm off. I sat back and I said, okay, brother, I don't know you. I've never met you, but karma's gonna be a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach, his biggest issue is does not listen to people who know. You and I have been doing podcasts. We've been sitting at this end. We've been giving him suggestions, telling him what he needs to do in order to be successful. The only person he's clearly listened to is Dave Meltzer. The only person he's listened to has not listened to people like me, you, Cornette, Bully Ray, Eric Bischoff. The list goes on and on and on. We know nothing. Coach, where has that gotten Tony Khan in AEW?
It's got him nowhere. It's got him absolutely nowhere. And I've never seen a human being walk around with blinders on when you're talking about their respective business that they are in more than one Tony Khan. Just because you can afford things, just because you can get to where you want to go financially does not mean that your product is any good. And also, there's a lot of WWE former wrestlers that are on this roster now, Vince. So I would ask the question, are some of them hanging out backstage? Because there's a lot that I actually respect. But if you're going in there, like if you're the Hurt Syndicate, I'm going to give them a pass because they just got there. But if you're a former WWE person that either I worked with, you worked with, or was there at any point, how are they not making more noise or not doing interviews where not that you have to bury Tony Khan, but you got to say, listen, only John Moxley is saying things have got to change, but it almost feels like he's doing it in character. Have you ever seen a bunch of guys that you respect have less of a voice than what we're watching at that pay-per-view?
Coach, I've spoken to some of them who are actively working there now, and I asked the same question because in my mind, it is their duty. It is their duty to have some type of a respect of, the wrestling business and those that built it and those before them and what the wrestling business stood up for. And I was like the same thing. How can these people stand there? And every single one of them, Coach, we tried, Vince. We tried. The talent knows more than we'll ever know. Tony Khan knows more than we'll ever know. We tried, Vince, until we just threw in the towel. So now we just collect our paycheck. Coach, I'm not exaggerating. 5 people that are still currently working there behind the scenes, the exact same thing came from each and every one of them. Because you and I know the people there, the Jim Rosses, the Tony Schiavones, the Tazes, the Jerry Lynns. Come on, guys. We know they know what they're doing.
100%.
Obviously, Coach, they're not being listened to or respected.
And after we're going on over 5 years now, and all the guys' names that you just mentioned have been there for the entire time. And it does get to a point because wrestlers are the most paranoid people of all time. Because when you come up in the indies, you don't know when your next paycheck's going to come. And when you get a paycheck of this size, at least reportedly of this size, and when they make a big deal about bringing over Ricochet or bringing over Mercedes and giving her private jets and 7-figure salaries, all of that, then at some point, you're going to say, you know what? There is no way I want to lose that. I don't know what the clauses are in the contracts, but if you're getting paid $1 million a year, at some point you say to yourself, screw it. It doesn't matter enough to me over me potentially losing this paycheck. And that's what we're seeing. And I also know this, whether it's the Coach and Bro show or it's Behind the Turnbuckle, every time that we have asked to have somebody on that's currently AEW, what's the answer we get? Sorry, not allowed.
Yep.
Sorry, not allowed. And in the wrestling business, you need to have thick skin. And there are going to be people that say good things about you. There's going to be people that say bad things about you. But to dictate where a wrestler goes as far as podcasts and radio shows and TV shows that they're allowed to be on, if you say no to 2 guys that have spent as much time inside the business as us, that tells me you're SAWFT soft.
Yep. Yeah, and I got to tell you, Coach, this was the downfall of Dixie Carter. And I'll tell you right now, if this was Dixie Carter and the Carter family, they would have been out of business a long time ago. They do not have con funds. They never had con funds. But this was her downfall, Coach, and I saw it when I was there. You and I know, man, because we've done many, many different things in our lives. Coach, we're going to make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistakes, and mistakes need to be made, and mistakes are a beautiful thing if you learn from them. Dixie Carter's downfall, Coach,
she didn't learn from them.
Repeating over and over. The only difference between Dixie Carter and Tony Khan right now is Tony Khan's got a lot more money to keep this thing going a lot longer. That is the only difference.
That's 100% right. And say what you want about Vince McMahon, but you and I have gone on Piers Morgan together. We've gone on several shows together. We are a team. And we talk about Vince in the light of him being who he was for so many years. And in that light, the one thing that I've always respected about how Vince did things, he was willing to take chances, but he was also willing to listen to certain things. Now, he may have shut certain things down, but the reason you go from being worth 80 million when I got there was about 100 million to now $1 billion is you listen to smart people around you. You listen to smart people around you. And that's what Vince used to do. And Tony, and all you have to do is look at the storylines because you scream this to me all the time. Coach, how bad's the writing? How bad are the storylines? Are we kidding right now? And that brings us to topic number 2, Vince. And this number I'm getting ready to throw you shocked me. Shocked me, Vince, that in this 2024 calendar year, of all of the highly viewed segments, the Costco guys who had a match on the 0 hour, and I'm going to give them credit because at least they were out there trying to use social media, trying to cut promos, trying to get a lot of the talent, and they did. Mercedes, QT Marshall did an entire music video. They were the 3rd highest rated viewed topic of the entire year behind Joe Henry and something at WrestleMania. They were number 3. So I'm going to give those guys credit, even though I thought Tony Khan bringing them in was ridiculous. But at least they tried, Vince, to promote the damn show.
Well, Coach, that tells you everything you need to know. Khan's biggest influence, and he's made this clear, has been Dave Meltzer. How many stars did Dave Meltzer give the Costco guys? That tells you, Coach, everything you need to know. Coach, the highest rated segment in the history of professional wrestling. Rock, This Is Your Life with Urkel the freaking clown. And what is Tony Khan doing? He's signing the Ricochets, the Will Ospreys, based on who he could pit them up against in fake wrestling matches and how many stars. Nobody gives a shit, Coach. The only people that care about that are the people that are already watching because that's what they do. The casual fan does not give a crap about that. So that does not surprise me at all, Coach.
It's so funny when you see certain people and transparently, Vince, I don't know a lot of these people on the dirt sheets or anything because I just don't care. But when I see one of them go, oh, that was a 4-star match or a 5-star match from whatever that ridiculous thing is, I'm like, these are all people trying to get mentioned. These are all people that are trying to get, because he still has a voice in the world of wrestling, a guy that's never been backstage, a guy that's never been talked to, that, oh, I got all these sources. Stop it. No, you don't. You throw stuff against the wall, and this is what sticks. And the Costco guys, let me ask you this. If you were back in 1998 or whenever you were right next to Vince all the time, can you imagine walking into a meeting, Vince, and going, hey, Vince McMahon, I got an idea. There's these guys. They're incredibly popular. They got a couple million followers on TikTok, and they are a one-trick pony. When I say one trick, they do boom, doom, chicken bake, double chocolate cookie, and that's it. I've never seen Vince. They don't do anything other than that. And they've had a hit single where they walk around doing this, right? And they got the entire roster. Can you imagine pitching that to Vince McMahon for Raw or Sunday Night Heat before a pay-per-view?
Coach, I got to tell you, this is my saddest story in wrestling, Coach. Now, Coach, you got to understand, there was a motive to my madness.
Okay, I want to hear this.
Coach, we're talking 1997, 98. And listen, you're a broadcaster. You will know what I'm saying. We're talking 97, 98. Bro, Stern was the biggest thing on the planet.
Biggest.
Far and away. Everybody was listening to Stern. So you know he had the entire whack pack. So I'm like, we got to get these guys on the show. We got to get the Stern audience, right? So, Coach, I get them all on the show. Crackhead Bob, Hank the Angry Young Dwarf, Beetlejuice, High Pitch Eric. I get them all on the show. Okay, now, Coach, I got to tell you, Coach, did you get to work with Percy at all, Paul Bearer?
No, I did not. I did not.
Coach, first of all, let me just say this: the most far and away underrated storyteller of all time. Of
Really?
all time. How Paul Bearer, Percy Pringle is not brought up in the greatest promo conversation. I worked with the guy. He was a genius.
Wow.
So, oh my God, you know, Coach, I love this man so much, Percy Pringle. So, Coach, I'm in the gorilla position, and now the real parade of human oddities comes walking through. I pitch Eric, Crackhead Bob, Hank the Angry Dwarf, Beetlejuice. They all come marching through gorilla. Paul Bearer is standing there. Looks at me, the coach, this broke my heart. Looks at me and says, serious as a heart attack, Vince, you've done a lot of crazy things, but you just proceeded to kill the wrestling business. But, you know, Coach, Stern was on.
He was the
fire.
man.
He was on. I was just trying to get that rub. So, like, I get the whole thing. But again, this is what it goes back to, Coach. If Tony Khan is going to look at today, oh my God, the third highest number of the year. If he doesn't learn by that, guess what? He deserves to fail. He deserves to fail if that doesn't tell him what he needs to know.
I can see him already high-fiving everybody backstage. We got the third highest.
Yeah.
No, because they're not going to be around next week.
Yep.
And you're not going to have an 11-year-old kid spearing QT Marshall.
Yeah.
And then the biggest star of the whole thing was the Rizzler. The Rizzler's like 8 or 9, and he rubs his face. I asked my kids, what's the hell is this thing? And him doing this, they're like, that's just what the Rizzler. That's the Riz face. I'm like, but there's no explanation? No. Like the kids, I said, rubbing your jawline? That's a thing? They said, yes, that's a thing. I never like to think of myself as getting older, but I felt old this weekend. But to your point, Vince, based off of your story, I saw several people say this is the worst of the wrestling business. So they kind of tweeted what you did back in 97.
Right.
They're like, this is the worst.
Of course.
You know, and they and when the crowd came out, they were kind of over. The Costco guys, the crowd was cheering for them.
See, Coach, that's why, and I say this all the time to Tony Khan and Triple H, you know, as the creators and the writer, bro, you can't write a show for you. You can't write a show that it doesn't matter what Triple H thinks. You've got to write a show for the masses. And the ratings are going to tell you what they're watching and what they're not. Coach, all those shows I wrote, they weren't for me. The ratings dictated who was on the show, what type of segments were on the show. The people were telling us. So what do, Coach? You give the people what they want.
It's not that hard sometimes.
Yeah, it's not about what Tony Khan likes. Nobody cares, quite frankly, what he likes.
I've always said that you never know who's watching a show or who's listening to you, but sometimes things are just too coincidental. Did you see the interview that Triple H just did 3 days ago, 4 days ago?
Yep.
He said exactly what you just said, which you have said several times. It wasn't like this is the first time you said it. And I really think they're watching our show because they know we are really smart minds in the business, as much as they want to criticize and say, oh, your people know. And Triple H said exactly. He said, like, if I wrote this stuff for me, I would kill the business or I'd be out on my ass.
And
what he said.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's saying that to boast over 1.5 million people. Okay, you're successful. You know, people want to talk about all the money the WWE is making, and I say all the time, first of all, creative and business are two different things. The job Nick Khan is doing, the money they're pulling in, the marketing promotion of WrestleMania, the making the big deals with Saudi Arabia. I've never once in my life questioned that. But think about this, Coach. If they were actually putting on an Attitude Era quality show, how much would they be making? How much
it would be so much more.
Right.
And that was my era. and that was 4, 5, 6 million. If you're telling Netflix they can get that kind of number, now you're talking maybe 7.5 billion instead of 5 billion. And I don't
Right.
think that's what people are focused on because they look at the number and go, oh, it's the biggest in the history. Well, it kind of is till you break it down and you go, okay, they're getting the international market. So all those deals are dead now. So all that money is going away. Netflix is picking it. So there's a lot of things that I call it masking what's really going on. And
Yeah.
if you have all the stars that are over, then why aren't you getting over 2 million? But I think everybody loves to focus on the AEW rating and also the money WWE is making to mask what's really going on and the fact that both places need to go to work.
Coach, let me ask you a question. Coach, I swear, and you know the feeling. When we were working for the WWE, you and I both know this. It's 24/7. Like
Always.
you really lose sight of the outside world.
Always.
Coach, I swear during that period, I somehow, some way got one day off. I took my family to Universal Studios. Coach, we walk out in the sea of people in the heat of July. Coach, I swear to you, every other person, every third person had an Austin 316 t-shirt. Coach, that's when it hit me. Holy shit, like, this is you. I had no idea. Coach, till I couldn't believe it. Let me ask you one simple question.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last wrestling shirt of anybody you've seen somebody wear out in public?
It's been a minute. And WWE keeps putting out Liv Morgan, top merchandise seller. Jey Uso outselling Roman Reigns and CM Punk. But as we discuss this now, Vince, they're not using numbers. You know what I'm saying? They're using outsold, top seller. But what are the sales?
Right.
Now you're getting me to think. Now you're getting, and I'm not saying that they're not big, and it's not against Jey Uso or Liv Morgan. It's just a way, and this is what they've always been good at. And a lot of big companies are good at this when things may not on paper look the best, of selling it, of putting it in a package that's attractive. And clearly all these executives with all the money in Saudi, Netflix, all these places, they've bought it.
Yep.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Yep.
They bought it.
And there's 100 more standing in line, Coach. Let's be honest. I said they could lose Netflix tomorrow. Who's the next person stepping up with $5 billion? Seriously.
It really is. Well, look at what USA is willing to put up with.
Right.
And add a third hour on a Friday night to make your life a living hell. So you're doing, what's that show you do? What's that SmackDown show?
Oh, I don't even. Back door, back pass, something.
Oh, my God. Okay, well, I'm not there anymore. So, third topic. And you talk about fallen stars. You talk about fallen stars that are really falling by the wayside. And this first guy, I've been a huge fan, and I predicted he would be one of the 3 biggest stars in the world in the next 3 to 5 years. And now people aren't even talking about him. And I'm talking about MJF. What about Mercedes on Full Gear? She came out, and when you are a one-trick pony, just like those Costco guys, one move, one saying, I don't know if you saw the video, Vince, but she did a video with the Costco guys, teaching them how to do her dance. And it took them about 3 seconds to figure it out because it's nothing. And when you have Chris Jericho, who's not even on the show, and they're pushing forward, Vince, to a match on Dynamite next week where Jericho's walking through the arena with a piece of paper that he won't sign, but yet he's your biggest name in the company, arguably, and he's not on your Full Gear in New Jersey. To me, when you look at all of these 3, what's the biggest name in your mind that has fallen off the quickest or the most?
God, there's so many. I mean, Coach, there's so many. I guess
you're so silly.
Yeah, if we're gonna look in terms of who was the most over, probably we'd have to say like MJF. But Coach, let me explain that to you because there's a reason for that. Coach, I will never, I always hear all the time, oh, yeah, Vince Russo was so successful. Look at the roster he had to work with. Well, first of all, just aside from when I took over the roster, Austin was the ringmaster and The Rock was Rocky Maivia. So
yes, you were.
that. Here's my point. Coach, that makes it twice as hard. Because when you got superstars like Austin, The Rock, Foley, Taker, DX, the list goes on and on and on. When you've got superstars and you're writing for them, Coach, you got to keep feeding them the best material every week. Because, Coach, what it is you got to keep bringing them here and here and here and here. And if you're not able to put meat on the bone for these great talents, here's what's going to happen. Rather than do this, they're going to do this. And you know who that happened to? Perfect case in point, Coach. Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's intellect was up here. They could not match it. So what did they do? They kept dragging him down. When you've got great talent and you got to keep topping yourself and giving them great creative to keep getting higher, bro, that is so difficult. And that is exactly the problem why you see the falling star of Sasha Banks and they cannot continue to write at a high level. So now they come down to mediocrity.
And when you say those three names, and then you got names that don't even bother to show up. Kenny Omega is now healthy. He's going to New Japan. Yep. Toni Storm, best female they had. No, I don't know if it's real or not, but she just retired from AEW. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. And you also like when you're writing for those big stars, Vince, that you talk about, they like to collab with you. You
Absolutely.
give them that top shelf stuff.
Absolutely.
And then they go, well, what about this? Well, what if we tweak this? There's none of that going on right now. Yep. You can see it. They're going out there, they're being handed a piece of paper, and they're reselling it, so to speak. Yep. Right. And if you're a guy like Jon Moxley, who was in a group with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, no wonder he looks irate and pissed off. And the only thing that's even making him happy, and I don't think he's a money guy, is the big paycheck he got to go over there. Right. But he ain't happy right now. Yeah. He can't be.
And Coach, you and I know, man, I experience, and this is very, very hard for people to believe, but Coach, I know you'll agree with me on this. If you are a creative animal and you are not being allowed to use that creativity, if you are stifled, if you are handcuffed, Coach, all the money in the world isn't going to make you I saw that with people at the tippy top of the card. The money meant nothing if you were going to creatively handcuff them. And that's why, like you said, Coach, collaboration is so important. Coach, when I was working back in the Attitude Era, bro, the talent had the show Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
They had the show. So then Rock would get the show. He called me, hey, Vinny Rue, I love the show. What about this? What about that? And 99.9% of the time, Coach, they made it better. But it's a different time. Unfortunately, it's not a better time.
Correct. I got called on Saturday or Sunday myself, and I wasn't even an A-list guy, but I was a pretty good heel, and I was in some really cool storylines, and I got a call, so then I was able to prepare. Right. And figure out what my character was going to do. It's also funny, Vince, when topics here on our show get carried forward onto the actual show and you go, I believe we just talked about that. And I just believe we just said what we would do and what should be done. And what happened in the post-event press conference with the Hurt Syndicate, with Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin sitting there. This girl, Katie, who has, and people pulled up all these tweets from years past, works for Fightful. I believe that's somehow connected to Meltzer, correct?
Can we? No. Fightful is Sean Ross Sapp, who is.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay.
And can we talk about that for a second, Coach, before you get into this?
Okay.
Coach, what are the names of some of your shows? Give me the names of the shows.
Driving the Line, Behind the Turnbuckle.
Behind the Turnbuckle.
Yes.
Coach, what is Fightful? The first time I heard that, I'm like, who in God's name? What is, that's got to be the worst name of anything I've ever heard. To this day, I have no idea what freaking Fightful. Go ahead, Coach, with your story. Go ahead. Katie, let's go back to lovely Katie.
No, I appreciate you pointing that out because I've often wanted the same thing.
Terrible.
So
terrible.
Katie is in this farce of a post-events press conference.
Scrum, Coach. It's the Scrum, Coach. How dare you, Coach?
Scrum. I mean, it's not that hard to have a really good press conference, but it is what it is. So Bobby Lashley's sitting there looking like $1 million. MVP is shredding everybody who has anything to ask if it's a bad question. And here is what Katie asked Bobby Lashley at that press conference. Produce a few layers here, Vince. First of all, what's it like for you to come into a company of guys that you've worked with before, like if we're going to lay all that stuff out, and see how many black champions there are? It'd be like walking into the world of tennis and going, hey, there's 4 black players that are playing. What's it like to play with 4 black players on the tennis circuit? And then after this, Vince, she didn't delete her social media, but she made it private. But you're a public reporter. So how are you supposed to do your job and post your work if you've made all your social media private? I would love your take on this.
Coach, every time I hear something like this, the first thought that goes through my head is, if Vince Russo had said that, forget it. Forget it. Now, see, that's the thing, man. I learned so much doing Black and White with Stevie Ray, man. I learned so much, but that's it in a nutshell. Coach, I'll never forget. Do you know Kenny King?
I do not believe I do know him. No.
Coach, I was watching Kenny King at TNA. Never met the guy in my life, but I was very entertained by him. So many, 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 many years ago, I wanted to have him on my show. Black wrestler. So I'm having a conversation with him, never met him. And he says to me, he hits me right between the eyes. He said, Vince, you're a white guy, right? I said, yeah. How can you possibly write for a black person? You're not black. You're not in my skin. You haven't experienced what I experienced. You have no idea of our culture, of our way of life, why we do the things we do. How can a white guy write? And I'm like, wow. But here's the problem. And this is why I'm so thankful for people like you. And I'm so thankful for people like Stevie. Nobody tries to get educated when it comes to race. Nobody. I don't know if a white person is scared to death of having a conversation with a black person, but when you sit down and converse with somebody of a certain race and really start asking questions because you thoroughly want to have an understanding, only then do you become educated. But the problem is, Coach, that's not important enough for some people. And like I said, man, I always go back to Stevie. The education Stevie has given me on, the African American and the plight and the history and the way of thinking and why you think the way you do has so enlightened me and so made me a better person, but people don't even think in those terms these days. And that's really sad, Coach.
It's really sad. And you're absolutely right. I also saw a few people that made the comparison to that scrum and what Triple H did when he tripped over his tongue several weeks back, right, when he says, I don't see color. I'm like, those are two completely different things. What you're asking about black champions, and you can have a discussion about great black champions, but you don't ask 3 black guys that are coming into a new company. It just screams all these people in this scrum, they read dirt sheets. They read the headline and go, oh, that's a topic. Maybe I should ask about it. And then they're not educated enough and they ask it in that way. And then
Right.
they run and hide because people are crushing her because there's just not a lot of respect in the wrestling business journalism game, if you even want to call it journalism.
Yeah.
And I would love to have, and this is why I love listening to you and Stevie and having a real honest conversations, because there's so many people at different levels, whether it's you being a white Italian, me being a black man, but because of the way that I've talked in my career, oh, he's not a real black guy. Then you got Stevie Ray, who's different than the two of us. And then you're going to have, everybody's different. You can be black and still be different. But to your point, if you would have said, man, I'm coming into this company, they got some amazing white champions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. A, that's a headline. And B, what is Vince Russo doing?
Coach, the person who started this and literally was called out by Disco Inferno, about a week or so ago and didn't address it. Coach, I got to tell you, man, when I was at WCW, this is a God honest truth. I walked into a meeting one day and, there was maybe about 5 or 6 people there. Myself, Ed Ferrara, Disco Inferno, Terry Taylor was probably there, Jeremy Borash, may have been 1 or 2 more people. There were about 6 to 8 people. I threw this question out at them. If you can put the belt on anybody in this company right now, who would it be? I went through everyone in the room. Coach, unanimously, Booker T. Unanimously. It wasn't 5-1, 4-2. Unanimously, Booker T. Keep in mind, Coach, we're all white. We're all white. Booker T. So I said there and I said, well, guess what? At Bash at the Beach, we're putting the belt on Booker T. Dave Meltzer breaks the story that at that time down at the power plant, there was a lawsuit going on because some students going through the power plant were accusing some of the leaders and the teachers and the coaches at the power plant of racism. Okay? So Meltzer reports that WCW management got a hold of creative and told us to put the belt on Booker T because of the lawsuit.
Of course they did.
Disco, who was in that room, said, no, Dave, that's not the way it went down at all. Not at all. We all unanimously agreed that Booker deserved it. Did he retract the story? No.
No.
Disco's in the meeting, and Meltzer wants to believe Disco's lying. But that's the mentality of the dirt sheets, and that's why I'm always so hard on them, Coach.
And you should be. And I think that they've always gotten a pass. And this is why they're so critical of us, or they make fun of us, or they say, because I've heard Dave say it in his sidekick, and they go, oh, Coach is the absolute drizzling shits. And I always say, yeah, it was horrible for over 10 years there, horrible over 10 years there. And I don't know what people think. It's so easy to be at ESPN for 10 years. You go and try it.
Yeah.
How about being backstage for over 10 years, Dave and sidekick? You go and try it. Because we all know that Dave and his sidekick would cut off their left leg to be a part of the WWE or AEW. That's just fact. And if they tell you you're not, then why are you putting your entire adult life and business into the wrestling game?
Right.
If you don't want to actually be inside the wrestling game. But then when you have people like this, and I don't know, Katie, from anybody, but when they're given an opportunity by somebody who runs that website and they're told, go and ask that question, or you're not going to get, and it's so cool to be in the scrum. It's so cool to be so close to those that you see on TV. They'll do anything. Yeah. And there's nobody that's calling them on it. It's not the New York Post. It's not the Washington Post. Nobody's calling these dirt sheet writers on anything.
Yeah.
Not even that. And then they go and hide because they can't handle the heat. And I hate the heat of social media. I think it's way overboard most of the time.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's warranted.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's warranted.
And
Couple
Coach,
more top.
Yeah, I actually, I mean, this is why I take offense to it. Coach, believe it or not, my degree is actually journalism.
You're
I
a
went
writer.
to school for journalism. That's why
Me too.
I take great offense to this.
Me too.
Yeah.
When we say something, we make it very clear also what is our opinion and what do we believe to be fact. Most of them just throw it up there as fact, and then whatever sticks, they run with that, and then we conveniently forget about the other stuff. There is a story that's out there, Vince, that I was smack dab in the middle of a couple of weeks ago. And I want to get your take on it. And I haven't even brought this to your attention because I want to get your honest, in the moment take on this. I said, based off of what I believe and what I've seen and the talent work, that not only did Bianca and Jade, they have no chemistry, but I felt like at some point they'd be way better off apart. Bianca's a former WrestleMania main eventer, and Jade is somebody who looks really good. She's in great shape, but she is not a very good talent. She's not a good worker, and she certainly can't cut a promo. And then everybody crushed me. Coach, where's your facts? Where are your sources? Why would you say they don't get along? I said that Bianca makes her stuff and Jade doesn't. So that's going to cause friction. Why, Vince? Because one can make it in real time. The other one has to wait, agree, and get somebody else to make it. And I'm like, oh, it's crazy. But the one thing that hasn't happened, Vince, during the last month of me saying that and getting crushed, there's been no denials. There's been no coach is wrong. And then you come up to this week, and what did they do? The week before Survivor Series. And we don't know if it's real or not. But who did they put into an injury angle that now will not be a part of the biggest female match of the year next week, or at least she shouldn't be, at Survivor Series? Jade Cargill. And now all of these stories are coming up. Well, Bianca would be a great heel. I said that too. So, Vince, I want you to react to what the WWE is doing with Jade Cargill based off of everything we've seen the last 3 months.
Well, I want to back it up a little bit, Coach, because this is where in the wrestling bubble, the lack of really understanding people's real life characters and really understanding who people are and why you do this and why you do this. First of all, if Jade Cargill is coming into my company, okay, first of all, I cannot say enough about the just athletic freaks that both Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair are.
That is true.
I wish I had 1% of that discipline. I know what it takes because I saw it, the diet and the exercise and where we're going to work out on the road and what are we eating after the show. It's ridiculous. However, let's look at this for a second. You got Bianca Belair, who is young. So really, when it comes to life experience, Bianca Belair's a little green because she's young. Now you have Jade Cargill come into the company, who Jade Cargill herself, little green and young, okay? And both of them in high competition with each other. Highly competitive. The way the both of them look, the strength, the athleticism, highly competitive. Now, Coach, if I'm a Bruce Pritchard or whoever else is making the decision, would I really choose to put those two together? They're both young. They're both impressionable. They're both a little green. They both haven't been around the track a couple of times. Meanwhile, Coach, you've got a Natalya sitting there. And Natalya now knows her role. She is the elder statesman. She has the wisdom, the knowledge, the bloodline. She has seen it all. So now if Jade Cargill comes in, she needs some seasoning. She's a little green. She needs to learn a little bit about the business, how to conduct herself behind the scenes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who am I putting her with? And maybe not on TV, but at least personal coach training her. I've got Natalia sitting there, but I'm going to take these two physical blue chip athletes, young, in competition with each other, and put them together. That's just a bad decision, coach. And that is a bad decision because you don't understand people. You don't know how to read people. You don't understand personalities. I mean, if anybody, if you would have taken a picture of these two and showed anybody who knew nothing about wrestling or that they were tag team or anything, you would immediately think, oh my God, these two girls are going to be in complete competition with each other. That's
exactly what I said.
Yeah, that's the first thing you're going to see, coach. Hey, and you know, coach, but here's the wild part. You and I know the wrestling business. Were they put together as a rib? You and I know how they do things. What were they put together?
I don't think it was a rib, because I don't think that they, with the amount of money they reportedly had to spend to get her, I don't think they would rib on that. Where it goes back to is having the discussion on race. Is you're putting a high-level black woman with another high-level black woman when you could have a nice either rivalry, or, to me, I kind of like the idea of having Natalia teach her behind the scenes. Put her take her to the performance center, teach her how to talk, because we all know that no matter how good you look, no matter how good you can work, and she's still green as grass, that is not enough with the fan base of today. They want to be bite in. They would either want to be yelling your entrance music, singing it, or yelling or yeet, 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 whatever it is. She doesn't have it. And I don't know why I took so much heat, because I said what to me was fairly obvious.
Yep.
But now the WWE is doing exactly what I, in my head, thought would happen. This is how you break them up. This is how you break them up. And then my other thing is, I believe that once they break her up, I believe we won't hear much from Jade Cargill for a while.
I would not be the least bit surprised. And coach, keep in mind, man, you are explaining all of this to the audience watching that has no idea of the ego of a professional wrestler. Coach, you can't even, bro, there are so many things in wrestling, coach, that when I tell people outside of the business, coach, this is what I always tell myself, they're not going to believe me. No matter what I say, they're not going to believe me. You are talking about the biggest egos in all of sports, entertainment, you name it. And when you know that and you understand that, the choice of marrying those two was not a good choice, coach.
People ask me all the time about what you just said, because I love to use the word competitive. And the Attitude Era had 25 dudes and ladies that were competitive to get their spot. People say, Coach, what are you talking about? Everything is predetermined. I'm like, is it? Are the paychecks predetermined? They are not. So if you get, and the fan base wants you in the main event at WrestleMania, you are getting, at least in the Attitude Era events, what were they getting? $1 million bonus. Both guys, Rock Hogan, over $1 million bonus. That's competition. And it's just like any other business, in any other job, it's competition. And when you bring somebody new in, this is the other part of it. And I'm Bianca, and I've already been at the top of the WrestleMania game, and you're going to bring me down to be in a tag team, because we know this. What did Jey Uso just say? There's a huge article. I want to win more individual gold, because he got a little taste of it. He's been a tag team his whole life. Nobody wants to be in a tag team their whole life, because then you got to rely on somebody else, and you got to travel with them. You got to do all the same shows as them, and you're probably going to make the same money as them. And I promise you, Bianca thinks he's more deserving than Jade.
And if they have heat, you're going to have heat, coach.
100%. Yeah. 100%. And all this nonsense about fighting backstage or whatever the case might be, you can see it when you're out there. Their chemistry is not there. They have separate entrances sometimes.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yep. Yep.
That's ego. That's one of them. Again, I'm not saying every time, but I've seen it a couple of times. But at this point, if I'm Bianca, and I'm completely on Bianca's side on this. I mean, I know you said she's young, but she was young when she got here
Oh
and
yeah,
her own
absolutely.
reality show.
She was
And
on the top of the food chain.
correct. And
Yeah.
then you bring in Jade, and you're like, wait a second, guys. But this goes back also to the ego and the paranoia. And you go, all right, I'm making $500,000. If I bitch and I moan and complain, there's a door over there that TKO is not scared to throw somebody out of.
Yeah.
And then my only option to make this kind of money is going to a place where nobody watches the product. And that's a rock and a hard place.
But then again, Coach, what we were talking about earlier, what is a part of them making that decision? They get Bianca Belair on top of the food chain. What do we do with her now? That's exactly what we're talking about. What do we do with her now? We put the belt on her. She's on top of the food chain. Creatively, we're bankrupt. What do we do with her now? So, Coach, you never take a talent from here to there. Never, ever, ever. And that's what they did. That's what
and Vince, do you know where they need her right now? Who set up this entire War Games situation in the ring, in the Raw that they taped the day after, but the girl said it was yesterday. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
They could use her in this entire women's, because Rhea keeps getting hurt. She's been hurt twice now. You don't think that a Bianca Liv Morgan rivalry would be something that people would buy into? I would.
Yeah.
I 100% would do that. And right now they have we're seeing Charlotte Flair is almost back. Well, now we're seeing Becky Lynch. Why are these names surfacing? Because the women's game is hurting. That to me would be the biggest reason you fix your mistake. Make Bianca singles again. I don't give a damn about the tag team division of the women's game. I don't. I want to see the singles. All right, last topic, and then we got to get the hell out of Dodge. And don't forget, we drop this show every Monday and Thursday on 7 Eastern time. I encourage you to subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel as well. And Vince, it's been a year since CM Punk shocked the world and came back at Survivor Series. Some would say it was the day that AEW officially started to die. And the WWE is now releasing video of backstage. It's going viral of CM Punk being herded in. He was in a room somewhere by Bruce Pritchard, going out. Seth Rollins legitimately losing his mind because none of the talent knew. But guess what? In the middle of all of that video, Triple H, hey, you want to blow up the internet? Let's go take a picture, me and you. And it kind of shows, because I wasn't, I'd kind of turned off wrestling for a little bit and CM Punk's best days. I'm starting to see now why he was so popular and is remaining so popular.
Yeah. Triple H is, we always see those pictures with the NXT students with his arm around them. Like, bro, that's the thing, man. I worked with Triple H as a talent. And Coach, I worked with him in the Hunter Hearst Helmsley days when he had the attractive woman on his arm, and then we evolved into DX and whatnot. Bro, the kindest, most respectful human being.
I agree.
I don't know Triple H now, but Coach, I do know this. When you're in that type of a position, you cannot be friends with the talent, man. You cannot be friends with the talent. Vince was maybe too much the other way. I don't think you want talent fearing you either. But taking pictures with them, the arms around them, you don't want to go the other way either. It's a real slippery slope, Coach. You want to have the respect. You want to be in charge. Not everybody's going to like you, but the last thing you want to be is everybody's friend.
I feel like there's a couple of things at play here, and you've said it a couple of times that you feel like long-term Triple H isn't long for the WWE based off of the people in charge of TKO. And when I see the pictures, I see all of the pre-big event pep rally, so to speak, in certain cities, and who's the first one to come out is Triple H. That, to me, The one thing Vince never did was put himself out front. If his character was in a storyline with Stone Cold or whatever, the character would be out front. But to have Triple H, it tells me, he still has a little bit of that wrestler in him, and every wrestler likes that attention. I mean, for God's sakes, look at Ric Flair all over social media, almost 80 years old, and he's still posting pictures of 1985 because everybody wants to be remembered as that. Not everybody can age like I do, Vince, like a fine freaking wine. But the other part outside of the ego is, I think, to show the executives at TKO that I'm the man here. I'm running it. The reason that we're making all this money is because of me, and look how the talent loves me. That's what I think the other half of this truly is.
Yeah, that is an absolute great point. But listen, I hate to burst Triple H's bubble. If Triple H disappeared from creative tomorrow, it would not hurt the product one bit.
They'd figure it out. Yeah, they would figure it out. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, because whether they want to admit it or not, everything is all good in the hood right now with them and Netflix. But if the numbers start coming in, because there's rumors of we're going to throw commercials in, other ways of making money on top, because they've got to make their money back on this $5 billion investment.
Yep.
And if it starts to go south, or they're only at 1.5 million viewers on Netflix, that ain't going to be good enough for Netflix at that price. Do you agree with that?
Fox. Yeah. End of story.
They weren't happy.
Nobody ever brings that up. Fox. They made promises to Fox they could not keep. And what happened? And my gosh, man, to be promoted during every single football game on Fox, the promotion they were getting. And Fox said, listen, man, these are the numbers you gave us. These are the numbers you did. We'll pass.
They did that with the PGA Tour also. They paid $100 million a year for the U.S. Open, and then they realized, we don't know how to do golf. And so they sold it back to NBC. It happens a lot of the time, but that's a great point, because I was a big part of that Fox situation, because when I got WWE on SportsCenter, that was a big part of what they used to sell to another network. Hey, it works. So I'm kind of proud of that, but how quickly they forgot that I did that. It's funny.
Of course.
It's funny like that.
Of course, Coach. Yeah.
All right, we're going to keep these storylines going. We'll be back. I don't know if we'll do it Thursday or not. We'll put out a tweet, but follow us on social media. We have a Twitter account, also YouTube. Subscribe to that, and we'll really get things going as well. But follow us on social media for all the announcements. For Vince Russo at russosbrand.com, producer man, I am the coach. We'll see you next time right here on the Coach and Bro Show.